Hello, and welcome to the MomsWork podcast. Our third episode is today with a dad as a guest. I'm your host, Kristin Weinrich, mom of two, fourth grade teacher, and someone who is very much looking forward to spring. I'm really enjoying bringing dads into the conversation about parenting, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Brad Ingelsby. Brad is a husband, father of three, writer, and producer of HBO shows like Mare of Easttown and Task, and movies such as The Lost Bus and The Way Back. He's also a Philadelphia suburbs native, but spent years living and working in California and ultimately made the decision to move back home with his family a few years ago. Brad, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kristen, glad to be here.
So glad that you are here. Thanks. And today we're going to talk about creative work, career paths, coming full circle, and how becoming a parent shapes the way that we define success, and how parenting and creativity often influence each other in unexpected ways. But Brad, can you start us off by introducing yourself, your work, your family, a little bit about kind of your path to
Yep.
becoming a writer and producer?
Of course. So I'm Brad Ingelsby. I primarily work as a writer, doing a mixture of movies and television, more recently television. And I am a father and a husband. I have three children, and I live outside of Philadelphia. My path was a sort of kind of odd one, I would say. I went to Villanova. I was a marketing student at Villanova.
Oh,
I think,
interesting.
yeah, I think that I probably at that time in my life wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and my father, being a very practical man, said, "Listen, get a degree in something so that if as you take your time to figure out what it is you want to do, you can, be employed and you'll
Have
have
health
health insurance."
insurance.
Yes, yes,
That was always a
exactly
big
right.
one at my house.
Yep, that was a big one in my house. My dad was an insurance agent, so it was an especially big one in my
That's
house.
right.
And so I uh, I went to Villanova. I graduated, and while I was at Villanova, I was always trying to fill my electives with movies and movie classes,
Okay.
because I grew up watching a ton of movies. So even as a very at a very young age, I was watching a lot of movies. I loved movies, and this is back when you had to go to the movie store,
Right.
Blockbuster, and you had to rent. You would go to the store, and we used to have
Those were the
a.
days.
Those
Those
were
were
the
the
days.
days.
Yes, and so I was a voracious uh, watcher of films, and so when I was at Villanova in the marketing program, I would try and take as many movie classes as I could. And when I was a junior, I took a screenwriting class, and they didn't really offer that many classes in
Okay.
movies or movie making, filmmaking, writing, but they did offer a screenwriting class, and I took the class, and I had a teacher there, Sloan Seal, who's still a teacher. I believe she's at Temple now. And she pulled me aside one day and was kind enough to say, "Listen, I have you ever really given this a thought?
Hmm.
Because you're a lot more interested in this than the other students." And
You're her number one.
yeah, and I don't think I had a ton of competition. I think the other kids weren't quite as into
That's okay.
screenwriting as
Made you
I
look like a
was.
shining star.
It did. It did. And I think it was the kind of nudge that I needed at that time. And so I started writing on my own, looking up how to write screenplays online. At that time, there wasn't
Right.
a ton of information out there. You really had to seek it out. Now everything's sort of at your fingertips in a way it wasn't back then. And so when I graduated from Villanova, it was in my mind, hey, I think I really like this writing thing. Maybe it's taken me a little while to figure out what I want to do, but I think
Yeah.
I have a passion. And so I took 1 year off after Villanova. I worked as a school teacher actually at St.
Oh,
Pat's in
oh,
Malvern.
no
Yep.
way. Okay.
Yep. I taught computers at St. Pat's in Malvern. And while I was there, I
Were you like,
basically
no, nope. Not for
I
me. I
was
got to do something else.
I didn't think I had, yeah, I think I knew that being a teacher, it wasn't my strong suit. But I love the kids. I love being
Yeah.
around the kids. And it was a great year to really I gather myself and start to formulate a plan. And I took that year to apply to a bunch of film schools, and was lucky enough to get into AFI in Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's the Film Institute, American Film Institute in Los Angeles. And I got in there in the writing program and I spent, I guess in total, I was probably there like 2.5 years, Kristen. I
Okay.
got my MFA in screenwriting.
Okay.
And a very, very long story, very short. At the time, in order to graduate from AFI, in order to get your degree, your
Mhm.
MFA, you had to submit two screenplays, so two
Okay.
movie screenplays.
Got it.
And one of those screenplays that I submitted, it got in the hands of a producer. He liked it and thought, I don't think I can make this movie right now, but I really like the writing. I think you're talented. I think I can get you an agent. He sent the script over to an agent. The agent also liked it, said, "Oh, I think you have some talent. I'm going to send this out to directors." And that script sold. And it was, I got a check. I was able to become a working writer.
And were you
And
what, like 24, 25? I mean,
so
that's
actually,
pretty
so
good, right?
actually, I graduated from AFI. I actually moved home and was
Okay.
working in insurance. So I think when it sold, I was probably like 27, I think maybe. So
Okay.
I actually came home. I spent a couple of years back here
Okay.
writing, working, because at that time I hadn't been a writer that long. I felt like, man,
Right.
I really need to kind of go home. I need to work on myself as a writer. And while I was doing that, that script got out, it sold, and then my agent was like, "You have to move back to California." And then I lived in California
Wow.
for another like 14 years or so. And
Okay.
but at that moment I became a working writer, and luckily I've been able to keep that job
It just kept
up until
going.
now. It just
And
kept going.
is that, don't be humble, is that
Right.
pretty impressive as a 26, 27-year-old to have sold a script? Like to have sold
Yeah.
something. I mean, that feels
Yeah,
to me like that's a pretty big deal.
I think that's why I don't like to tell the story, because it sounds quite easy. And that script sold in a very, like, it was a kind of a crazy story.
Okay.
It got into the hands of Ridley Scott,
Oh, yeah.
he's a really big director. And then they got oh my God, DiCaprio attached to star. He
Oh,
ultimately didn't star in the film,
okay.
and Ridley Scott didn't direct it, he produced it, but
But
it sold in a big way that was
okay.
sort of uncommon, I would say. So I always hate telling that story because it makes the journey sound a lot easier than
Like
it
I went to
is.
film school and then I got Ridley
Yeah,
Scott on board. It was
right.
just, you know,
Right. So
what do they
I
call them?
tend to
Angel
kind
kisses or something? That was
yeah,
like your
if
God's wink or something. That was your big
it felt
moment.
like that, Kristen. It felt like that. And so I'm always hesitant to share that story with young writers because
Right.
it's not very common. And I
Yeah.
always feel like I got incredibly lucky. Right place, right material, right time.
Sometimes that's all it takes,
And
right?
sometimes that's what it is. That's right. Sometimes it's just, being in the right place at the right time. And I think in that case, it was a perfect storm of elements, and I got very lucky. And I do think what's harder to maintain in this particular industry is longevity. How do you?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of writers are able to sell a script. How do you stick around?
Right.
How
You
do
don't want to be a
you?
one-hit wonder, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. How do you maintain that over the course of years and years and years? And that is something I'm proud of. Is that I've been able to be a writer for almost 20 years now,
Yeah.
and in a somewhat crazy, inconsistent business.
Yeah. That's props to you right there. And now, did you meet your wife at Villanova? Like, did she travel back and forth with you or?
No, so I met her after I graduated from AFI. I moved back in with my parents
Okay.
here, and I met her in that time. I think I was home for like, I want to say I was, after AFI moved home, Chris, and I was probably living in this area again for about a year and a half.
Oh,
And
okay.
I met her in that time. And then
Okay.
when I had to move back to LA permanently is when she came with me.
Okay. She was like, yeah,
Mhm.
I'll come along. She, right? She crossed the
Mhm.
country with you. That's
She
love.
did.
That's how
She
you knew.
did. She did. She did. That's exactly right.
And then you had your three kids, and we'll
No,
talk more
no.
about coming back and all of that in a minute.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
thank you. That was a great introduction.
Mhm.
And we won't hold that, strike of luck against you. We'll say good for him. Yippee. All right. And I was saying to you, the other people didn't hear it, obviously, but listeners, I was saying to Brad before we popped on that we grew up, I guess, in the town next door to each other.
Mhm.
And when I think of the Inglesbys, I think of how my dad used to talk about your dad being a basketball player.
Yes.
And then they, coached CYO basketball together or something.
Mhm.
And I said to Brad too, we were always 5:30 mass on the right hand side of the church in the back, and his family always kind of came in the other door. The Inglesbys were back left. So that's, there are a lot of families who I run into now because a lot of people don't leave our area. And I'm like, oh, I
Yep.
know you. You don't know me,
Hmm.
but I know you from 5:30 mass,
Hmm.
20 years of going at, and I'm like, oh, they look familiar to me. I can picture where they sat. So there we are.
Yep.
All right. I have a couple of specific questions to ask you, just to get to know you even better. When you think back to your childhood,
Hmm.
like what kind of a kid were you? Did you always like to write? Did you always have a big imagination? Did you see any kind of early hints of like the storyteller that you would become?
Hmm. I think I was always, it's funny. I wasn't a big reader, Kristen.
Okay.
But I was a big movie watcher from a
Okay.
very young age.
What
And
were your
I was
favorites? Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah, I probably had favorites then, but
Okay.
I would say movies that were influential when I was just, you know, I guess when I was starting to think about becoming a writer, or the films that influenced me and got me thinking, wow, I wish I could do that. I wish I could tell a story like that. Breaking Away was a big movie that I loved as a kid, and uh, Boogie Nights was a movie that when it
Okay.
came out in 1997, I think I
Yeah.
saw it in the movie theater like maybe six times in
Oh,
the movie
wow.
theater because I was so amazed by the talent on display. And obviously, that
Okay.
director has gone on to make many, many other incredible movies. And he's got a movie this year that will probably win the Oscar.
Oh, wow.
But Stand By Me was a movie that when I was a kid, I watched that and was really influential. And as a kid, I had a terrible stutter. I had a really
Oh,
awful stutter
really?
as a kid, like a really, really, really bad stutter. I had to go to
Okay.
speech therapy for
Mm-hmm.
years and years. And I still have a stutter, but I've just been able to manage it over the years. So I think I was probably, as a kid, I was okay to be a listener. I
Okay.
think of
Take it
myself
in.
as, yeah, take it
Yeah.
in and listen to people and not want to, because when you have a stutter like that, you're scared to embarrass yourself. So you're
Right.
constantly trying to avoid situations in which you might embarrass yourself. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
the most terrifying part of school was always when the teacher would say, okay, let's go around the room and everyone read a passage from the book, because what I learned to do as a kid was I could avoid the words that in some way gave me trouble. Like I could
Okay.
avoid certain sounds or
Yeah.
or words that started with a certain letter. In my brain, I could train my brain to avoid those words. But when the teacher said you have to read those
Right.
words, you were
And
like,
were
oh
you
my
like
God.
counting ahead? How many lines?
Yes, of
Which ones?
course.
I used to do
Yes,
that in
yes.
math class if it makes you feel any better because I was not
Yes.
good at math. I'd be like,
No, I
which one
get
is he
it.
going to ask?
Yes, and so
Yeah.
you plan, and I think that, it's funny to say, but I think that ability to kind of always be looking ahead, like what's the
Hmm.
worst case
Hmm.
situation? What if
Hmm.
I do this, or what if I get that paragraph, or what if I had? I think as a storyteller, it's really helpful actually as a
Hmm.
storyteller now is to go, okay, let me look at this situation. I'm going to put a character in this situation, and I'm going to project 10 steps in the future. What
Right.
happens if this happens or that happens? But
Yeah.
so I would say I was a good listener. I had a really small group of really close pals that I'm still really good friends with. I liked playing basketball. I really did enjoy playing basketball as a kid. I didn't have a great skill set as a basketball player. My older brother Martin did have a good skill set.
Right.
But I think I was a pretty normal kid, and I came from a pretty normal family and a pretty happy childhood, I would say. I
Right.
I really did. Like I had a lot of fun, and it was, this is back when I was living in a neighborhood where we had lots of kids, Kristen. I would get home from
Hmm.
school, I'd throw my book bag down, I'd walk up the street and play basketball till it was dinner time. This is the old days
I
when you
think
could
that
do that
neighborhood's
stuff.
still doing that. That's what I'm hearing from the
Yes,
kids in that
yes,
neighborhood. We're gonna go play in the neighborhood. I'm like,
yes,
okay. Uh-huh.
yes,
That's great.
yes. It's great. And so I had a really good childhood, and I came from a large family. You know, my dad and my mom were very close to their siblings, and all of them
Hmm.
still lived in Delaware County, or a lot of them lived in Delaware County. So we were
Okay.
so not only did I have a good group of friends, but I had a really close group of cousins
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And so I think I felt very lucky that I was able to surround myself with a number of good outlets. I had my cousins that I could
Right.
play with and call and hang out with, and I had my friends from school, and I had my brother that I could go in the driveway with. And then I had my movies, you know, and that
Yeah.
was something that I kind of did on my own. I didn't really have anybody else in the family unit that was nearly as interested in movies. That was kind
Okay.
of my thing. You know, my
Hmm.
dad wasn't really a sort of avid movie goer or watcher. My mom was, you know, I think my mom liked movies as much as the
Right.
next person, but wasn't like in the business. But I just really loved movies. And I think what I loved about the movies was that they were able to it was a way of visualizing the feelings I had inside. Like when I think about a movie like Breaking Away, which was
Hmm.
about a group of friends in Indiana, and they have anyway, and they have a quarry they go swim in, and it's really about friendship and sort of moving on. And but I would watch those movies and think, wow, I have those feelings inside me, but these people get to tell a story
Right.
about it, and
On a
they
big screen.
and they're yeah, and it was like wow, like and but I will say when I was a kid, the idea that I would get to do that was unimaginable. It was like, wait,
Right.
how would I don't know anybody. I'm in
Right.
Pennsylvania. I
Right.
don't have any connection to it. It was absolutely impossible to think about.
Yeah.
And so it didn't occur to me until much later in life. I think I always just thought, oh, I'm always going to be a movie fan, a movie watcher. But it
Hmm.
wasn't until I started writing, until probably a sophomore, junior year in college, that I thought, God. And then even then, Kristen, I just thought, well, I'll go to school because if I fail, if I don't make it, at least I
Right.
can look myself in the mirror and say, I
I
tried it. I
tried.
gave it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really all I wanted. I just wanted to be able to look myself in the mirror and say I tried.
Yeah.
And I could live with that failure, but I was finding it hard to live with the idea that I never tried. And so
Right.
that's
To
why
kind of wake
I
up when
apply.
you're a certain age and be like, what if? Yeah.
Yeah, what
Nobody
if?
wants to do
And
that.
nobody wants to do that. And so when I applied to graduate schools, I got in a couple places and I was like, I want to go to LA. I want to go to the hub.
It's the
I want to
place to
try it
go. Yeah.
there. Yeah. And so I just felt like I had to try it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I felt like I really could live with it not working out, but I had to give it a shot, you know.
And that kind of answers the next question I had for you, which was when was there a moment where you were kind of like, this could be something? And it seems like, when you got into film school and you gave it your try, that was sort of like, okay.
Yeah, I think I got to AFI and I was quite intimidated because a lot of the kids who were also in my writing program had gone to NYU or Brown and had
Okay.
studied writing in the past or had as an undergraduate. And so when I first got there, I was like, man, I'm really
You're like the new
behind.
guy. Yeah.
I felt like what I don't think it was necessary that my writing was good. I just felt like I had a real passion that I
Mm,
didn't see from all of the other kids. And I
okay.
felt like if there's anything, I didn't think I was a great writer when I got there, but what I did think was I'm a really hard worker. And
Hmm.
there were a lot of other students, not to knock them but that I
Right.
felt like, well, I could outwork these people. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually you
I'll
need
work harder
talent,
and
you
try
need,
more.
yeah.
Yes. And
And
sometimes
I
that's all
felt,
you need. I
and
mean,
sometimes that's all you need. That's why
the
I say to
person
my
with the
kids,
natural
like,
talent isn't going to do it, but the person who will
yeah,
work and work and work and work. Well,
yes,
worked out for
yes.
you.
And I felt like I could do that. I felt like at least that side of things, I could
Yeah.
be a really hard worker, and then combine that with some sort of emotional awareness of people, which I think I got as a kid, being a listener and being able to
Right.
listen to people's interactions and how they talk to each, and being a really sensitive kid. I felt like I was always a very sensitive kid, and I think that's helped me write characters and
Mhm.
relationships as I've gotten older.
Well, and it has to be asked. I didn't put this on the
Mhm.
outline, but I was saying to my husband, we rewatched Mare a couple weeks ago. I was like, I have to bring
Mhm.
it to the forefront of my mind. And now I'm working through task, but I was saying to somebody, I was
Uh-huh.
like, so, with two kids, I only get so much time to watch TV, and I'll
Sure.
get myself like all set up at like, 6:30 on Sunday morning, and I like
Yeah.
get back into it, and I'm like
Yeah.
5 minutes in and I hear footsteps, and I'm like, darn, I have to turn it off. So, I've been watching it for like 3 weeks, but I'm on like the second episode. I'm like,
I
I have
get
to
it.
like remind myself. But
I get
and every time I watch it, I look at my husband and I'm like, so Brad Ingelsby is this like totally normal, totally nice guy. Where does this stuff come from, Brad? Where does it? And my husband's like, he's a creative writer. I'm like, my gosh, you can say that again. But like when you read books, I
Yep.
always read books and I'm like, whoever wrote this book must be so twisted, like to come up with this
Yeah.
plot. I'm like, no, no, no. Like I know him. I know him. I've seen him.
Mhm.
I know his
Mhm.
family. They're
Yep.
normal. So like
Mhm.
tell me, have you always had these big like stories in your head, or is it just your way of like working out your creative writing? I mean, to see you
Yeah.
and then to see the work that you do, like something doesn't match.
Well,
You've got a great
it's,
imagination.
yeah, I think it's like, I think it's, I definitely understand that, like, I've gotten this from a lot of people that the
Yeah.
stories are quite heavy, that they're quite heavy, and the material is quite heavy. But I
Yeah.
think for me, it's exercising my own insecurities and fears about being a parent, really.
Mm.
If you think about Mare, that's really,
Hmm.
that's a story about a woman who's lost a child and maybe
Right.
feels like she wasn't the mother she possibly, I don't know, she should have been. And it's really a story about having to confront the thing that she's been avoiding, which is the death of her son. And I think
Right.
for Tom and Task, it's really a story about a man who, whose life was kind of defined by a faith, yeah,
Hmm.
as a priest, and then this tragedy comes along, and the everything he held as truth in his life has come crumbling down, and he's
Hmm.
trying to pick up the pieces, and he has to find it in his heart to forgive his son. And so I think those at their core, those are stories about, you know, if you really were to boil them down, that's about losing a child. Is it a physical death or is it an emotional distance?
Right.
But it's about losing a child in some
Hmm.
way. So as a parent, that's what we all fear most, I think, is in
Yes.
some way losing. It's the great, it keeps you up at night,
Yes.
and it's,
Yeah.
yes, it does. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, it's really my way of trying to work through that, and trying to, keep the wolf at the door in some
Right.
way,
Well,
is to
no matter
work through
what, it
that.
would probably never happen the way that you write it. So you can find
Yes,
comfort in
yes.
that. At least not for you.
Exactly,
Hopefully.
exactly,
Hopefully. Yeah.
exactly, exactly,
But it's
So,
such a like a
yes.
a twist in your head of like, I know him, I can picture him, and then this is what
Yeah.
comes out. And I mean, it's incredible because it is so masterful and wonderful, but you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have put the writer with the
I
story, but that's
know. I
actually
get that
kind
a
of
lot.
interesting.
I get that a lot. Yeah, I really do. I get that a lot. I think it's, I sort of have my writing life where I'm in
Right.
the weeds with in these really dark places. But I also say, Krista, you know what, I get that a lot. But then I think about, I do think about other people I know and things that have happened, and it's like,
Hmm.
I often have to say, like, real life is really hard. Like,
Hmm. And things happen to
it,
people
and
and
things happen, and
awful
it's,
things.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, it's really, really hard at times, and it's wonderful in ways too. But
Hmm.
it can be very, very hard. And these stories, Mare and Tass, those are born from real stories, and some
Hmm.
not exactly as written, but certainly those stories came from, things I've heard or
Hmm.
I've read or I've listened to. And so I think what I'm most interested in are, like, how people deal with a crisis, or how they come through it, and how they lean on other people. And then also, we have to be entertaining too.
Right.
That's really important, as it can deal with heavy themes and personal relationships,
As long
but
as
we
there's a
also
good
have
blood splatter.
yeah, exactly. We need the
Yeah.
audience to click on the next episode. So it's
Right.
got to be a balance of like it has to have an engine, it has to have something that hooks the audience, but then it
Yeah.
also has to engage them emotionally. And I think that's always the balance, you
And
know.
I heard you say on another interview I listened to that your focus is the characters. And once I heard
Yeah.
you say that and I was watching the show, I'm like, yeah. And you were talking about like what radio station would they listen to? And Tom drinks out of that Wawa cup. And you know what I mean? And I think especially because we live in the area, so I see a lot of things that I'm familiar with, it's even more fun for people in this
Yes.
area to watch your shows. But I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's true. Even, what does Mare drink? Like Rolling Rock and,
Hmm.
just all of those
Yep.
little details.
Hmm. Hmm.
Brings it really to life. So
Yeah, I think so.
out of
And
that lovely freckled little face, here it comes.
it's true though. It's my way of like I have to build the character through like a million little details and
Yeah,
I just build them and then it's like, once I have enough details and I feel like I can write them and that's part of the fun part.
right.
It's the part I like most, the character stuff. The procedural stuff I find that I can get through it, but I
Yeah,
really like to write
the
the character
characters.
scenes. Yeah.
Well, you do it well, so good
Thank
for
you.
you.
Thank
All
you.
right, let's zoom ahead just a little bit.
Yep.
Do you want to give a challenge or a win of the week, and then I'll do the opposite rather than us both doing one? What do you want? Do you have a good week or a bad week this week?
It
What do you
was
want to do?
yeah, it was pretty good.
Okay,
A challenge. Okay, okay, a challenge. Okay.
you're
So
doing
I give
challenge.
it.
You
So
give me
I'm
something that
giving
was
it to.
challenging to you this week. Either parenting, personal, you're tired of the snow, like whatever it is that
I
you're like,
think. Well,
ugh.
I think a challenge for me was we have a new puppy here. We have a
Oh, that
puppy
is
in
a
the house,
challenge.
and
Yeah.
so that's been a bit of a challenge trying to get her acclimated to our house
Mm.
and her new surroundings. And also, Henry, our youngest, Kristen, is 8 now. So we're so outside of the baby zone. And
Yes.
like,
You've
and
blocked
we've
it
just
out.
yes,
Yeah.
and we'd gotten so used to just being like we can go wherever we want, whenever we want. We don't have to check in at home. We can go. And so to be thrust back into that, like
Yeah. It is like
being
a fourth
handcuffed,
child.
it is. And so that was a challenge, but I think Reese is the puppies now. I think she's doing pretty well. The kids have really taken to her. So that was, I would say, a challenge was trying to reorient and
Hmm.
and try to get my head around having to be home at certain times or having to
Hmm.
check
Let the
on the
dog
dog.
out. Gotta
It's
let the dog
yes.
out. Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
my challenge.
Yeah. Well, that is that there is a reason that we don't
Mm.
have a dog. And you just name people are like, get a dog. I'm like, no, I'll come home for my human babies. I'm not like rearranging my life for a dog, but I'm not a
Yep.
big
I
dog
was there
person. But
too. I was there
there
too.
you go.
I wasn't a huge dog person, but I have my daughter Lily who's been asking us for like years and years
And
and
you're like,
years and we
fine.
caved. Yes. Yes,
Yeah, I know
exactly
kids who
right.
have done like PowerPoints and their parents are like, how could we say no? And I'm like, oh,
I
that's like
know.
that's like next level. So I'm hoping it never gets to that in my house. But then I will do my win. And my win, we're listeners, we're recording in February, but this probably actually won't come out, I think, until St. Patty's Day. So we're almost a month in advance. So I am going to project my win, and that is that a friend of mine, Kara, who you might know, I'm not sure if you do or not, Brad, but she has a company called Purposeful Plantings, PA. And she came
Okay.
to our house in the fall and she built a garden for us, like one of
Oh
those
wow.
it's like
Yeah.
the wooden, raised bed,
Yep.
pretty high. And then there's a gate around it,
Yep.
so that deer can't get in and everything. And she
Yep.
did it, I think, in November. So we haven't been able to do much with it because it's just been snow covered and frozen.
Sure.
But we're hoping that by March, like we're really excited this year because we are not gardeners, but
Yes.
the win is that is our like family project this spring and
I love
summer.
it.
And I'm hoping my son could eat like the cherry tomatoes off of the
Yes.
entire thing at Wegmans. So my husband's like, if we could save like $15 every week on the tomatoes, I was like, yes. But she was great and she knows so much. And this is like her new business. And I think it's great. She goes and builds gardens,
Love
kind of
it.
like a customized, to people and what they want. So I was like, let's
I
start
love it.
small. Let's start small. So we have a little, and we'll see how it goes. And maybe soon
I
we'll have a
love it.
backyard. Yeah. So that is hopefully our win, in a month from now, we'll be thawing out and ready to get planting. All right. So I feel like we've gotten a little into our topic talk, but let's keep going. So, um, okay. So we already talked about what led you to want to become a writer and producer, and
Mhm.
then you had all that magic stuff happen to you, and
Mhm.
boom, there you were. So once you moved back to California and you sort of knew you were staying there,
Mhm.
how was that for you? Because you said your whole family is here, you grew up here, and it wasn't like, oh, you got to move to Delaware. Like
Yeah,
you were gone.
yeah,
And
yep,
your wife came with you, and she
yes,
also left because she's from the area as well,
yes, from
correct?
Aston, yes,
Okay, so
yes,
she kind of left everything,
yep,
and you were heading toward a job that's sort of competitive
mhm,
and
mhm,
unpredictable. And what was that
mhm.
switch like? East Coast, West Coast, that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, I think it was really scary. I mean, and also I'll just admit, even when I went to graduate school in LA, I didn't love living there even
Okay.
then. So I wasn't eager to move back at the time.
Hmm.
But I knew, I guess I had the same instinct I had when I went to graduate school the first time, which was,
Got to
hey,
do
I
it.
got to give
Got to
it,
try it.
I have to do it. I have
Yeah.
to do it. And if I really want to make a go at this thing, I have to go. So I think there was, listen, it's a beautiful place to
Right.
live. If you have to live
Boo-hoo, I'm in
somewhere,
Hollywood. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And also, Chris, I'll also say this: we actually made a decision that. So when I had to move back permanently, we actually moved to Orange County because I
Okay.
had a cousin who was living there.
Okay.
And I was living close to him. So I was able to pick a spot about an hour south of LA because I didn't have to be in LA
Okay.
every day. And in fact, the longer I stayed, the less I had to be there.
Okay.
Because over time, what happened, and it's one of the reasons I've moved back to Pennsylvania, is you just get to know your people and you get to, I met over time, I changed agents and I had a new
Okay.
team that I worked with, and I met some producers that I trusted. And so what happened over time was that I didn't have to be in LA much. All those meetings to get to know people over years, you know people, you have
Right.
friends, you have
Right.
contacts, you've built a circle around you.
So it
And
wasn't
so
like a COVID thing necessary. Because didn't you come back sort of
I did.
COVID-ish times? Okay.
Yes.
And was
Yeah,
it that or was it not necessary? They just kind
I
of
think it
coincided.
was I think it was a combination. I think COVID changed the world.
Hmm.
I think it just became so acceptable for people to work at home.
Right.
So I
And
think
Zoom
that was
was
a
everybody's best friend.
Zoom was everything. And honestly, in my business, a lot of, I know some companies have gone back and there are people who go to the office, but in my line of work, Zoom has really stayed around.
Okay.
Like we used to audition people in person. Now 98% of the tapes I get of all, in terms of actors
Hmm.
audition, I get on self tapes.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, I
Huh.
almost never see people in person. I
Now,
mean,
do you
once in a
think
while.
does the recording take something away or
I
not?
think it does, but not much. I
Okay.
think there are purists who would argue that, and there are actors, and I've met those actors who say, "Listen, I'm really good in the room. I can make a connection with you that I can't make
Okay.
over self tape, and I can appreciate that." And there have been roles, as an example, on task. There were one or two roles that we were like, God, we like a couple people. We're not totally sure, and we would go to New York and we would spend a day in a room with them
Okay.
and just getting to know them but not, I mean, not often. And so the move back was a little bit of, it's COVID, the world is changing,
Hmm.
Zoom is acceptable, but also a lot more of it, I would say, Kristen, was I had made all the connections. I didn't
Right.
really need to be out there to make any more
Right. They
connections.
knew who
And the
you
other,
are, you knew them.
yeah, and also the other thing is I wasn't a writer that was taking a lot of what I would describe as assignment work. So
Okay.
there's a couple ways to make money in this business as a writer. One is a studio, Warner Brothers or Sony, whatever. They they have a project or a book
Okay.
or an idea, and they call you and say, "Hey, we have this idea. We own this idea, and we would like a writer to write our idea."
I see.
Whereas my work typically, now exclusively, really is, I shouldn't say exclusively. Lost Bus it was a book that Lizzie Johnson wrote that I came in and adapted. But most
Okay.
of my work now is self-generated. I come up with
Right.
my own idea. I control. So I didn't really need to be engaging with those people,
Right.
because I wasn't asking them to hire me on jobs. I was generating my own. So I think it was a combination of COVID and the workplace becoming way more virtual, and
Yeah.
then also having spent enough time in LA to form a number of strong bonds with people
Okay.
that I felt like I still had a connection to the business, even though I wasn't living there.
Okay. And you said you were there for 14 years, right? So you must have like settled in a little.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
but
Yes.
did you always kind of think like, I want to move back home to be with my
Yes.
family? And it was always kind of the end game.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And that was another reason why we decided, at that age our kids were getting really entrenched, and we were
Right.
thinking
It's like
if
now
we
or
stay
never.
any yeah, now or never. If we stay longer, they're going to get to a certain age where they've kind of made these friend groups. They
Hmm.
don't want to be uprooted. So I think we were at the cusp of that with,
Yeah.
with Lily, our oldest, and we thought this is probably a good time to pull the ripcord here and see what happens.
Just another stroke of luck. And then COVID came and it all kind of worked out for you,
I
right?
know
It just made it even
I
better
know,
for
I
what you were
know,
going to
I
do.
know. It's just good timing.
And what would you say, how did becoming a parent change the way that you approached your work and the timing and when you're,
Mhm.
away filming and your priorities? How did that go from being, just married to
Yeah.
then becoming a dad?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it really, really changed my writing schedule. When I wasn't a father, I was much more of a nighttime writer. I would stay
Okay.
up all hours of the night writing into and then I would wake up late and I didn't have,
Yeah.
but as a father now, I've like completely flipped the schedule. I get up
Hmm.
super early, and then when the kids get home, I'm with them.
Yeah.
I try to coach their teams as much as I
Nice.
can or be a part of that. And I do the rides to practice. And I try to be as
Secret
present a
reader.
father.
I think I walked
Yes,
you down to a classroom last year. You're like, where's
that's
this
right.
room? I'm
That's
like,
right,
here it
Chris.
is.
Yeah.
You
So
get to be
I
the
try
secret
to
reader.
be, yeah, like I try to do those things, and I think that so that was really important to me, was to flip
Hmm.
my schedule and be like, I'm gonna write when the kids are at school, and when they get home, I'm gonna. And listen, I still find myself, even when they're here, I'm
Yeah.
still in the clouds. I'm
Drifting.
still thinking, yeah, I'm drifting a lot, but
Somebody
I
just got
try.
shot in my brain. I'll be right
That's right.
back. Yeah.
It's so true. I mean, sadly, that happens more than you think. Like I have these notebooks around the house, and I'll
Yeah.
just go scribble something in it, because the worst thing for me is when I lose an idea or I'm not able
Right.
to keep track of it. So I think that was a really. I think I had to I had to I had to come up with a schedule. Whereas when I didn't have kids, I could just sort of, I could write when the muse was in me, and I could let
Yeah.
it go when it was. Now I'm a guy that gets up every day. I sit in the chair. I write. I'm a very disciplined writer, I would say. I sit in the
Okay.
chair every day. And I think that was really a function of, or a result of having children and being like, I
You
really
have
have to
to,
come up with
right?
this. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
have to.
It's their world. We're all just living in it
Yes,
and making it
it's so
work
true.
for them, making
It's
it work
so
for them.
true. It's
How am
so
I going to change
true.
my life for them?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I heard you say, and this made me laugh,
Hmm.
when in terms of setting boundaries between work and family and turning it off and whatever. And I heard you say on another interview, you're like, well, my kids don't really care what I do. They think it's like dumb and like, why can't you
Yes.
write a show for kids? And you're like, and yeah, my neighbors don't really care either, which I'm sure
Mm.
is so like, none of us are impressed by you, Brad. We don't really care
Yeah.
what you're doing. No. But it's
But it's
probably
true.
also kind of nice. Like
It's
you
very
have your
nice.
work like anybody else who
It's
has like
very
their
nice.
work life and then you turn it off and you go home and you're dad or, I'm
Yep.
mom or
Yep.
whatever it is. And do you find
Yep.
that people around here, especially because again, like where we are, a lot of people who we grew up with are here. So people can
Hmm.
kind of be like, hey, it's Brad from
Yep.
1999
Yep.
instead of like Brad, the TV
Yep.
writer, you know?
No, I love that. I think it's like, I always say I have to do it all day long, and I'm really glad that I get to do it, but I don't really want to talk about it after that. It's like it's funny. Sometimes I'll just put on, people be, oh, what shows are you watching? And sometimes I'll admit I just want to watch something silly at night, or
Yeah.
something, a sports game or a reality show, because all day you're thinking, you're trying to plot out very elaborate stories. And the last thing you want to do is get yourself involved in another one of those
Right.
stories and have to engage
Especially
your
when you're in the
brain in
middle
that
of
way.
like multiplication homework or spelling homework
Yes,
or something. You're like, I gotta
yes,
be here. I gotta be here.
yes, yes. And also, I think, like truly being like having people recognize you or talk to you about that was never a part of my interest in being a writer. It really
Right.
goes back to what I said earlier, which is, what always interested me, and it's what still keeps me writing now. It was never the money or the fame or any of
Hmm.
that. It was always like, man, I got moved emotionally by seeing these characters from a different part of the world or a
Right.
different situation. I have no connection to these people, but there's something universal about their relationship or their emotional attachment to something. And that's what I like about being a writer. And that's what keeps me getting up every day is, oh, how do I reach people emotionally? How
Yeah.
do I do that? And that's what I like about all the other stuff, the parties and the events. Like I'm telling you, when I lived in
Oh, the red
LA,
carpets get old, don't they,
yeah.
Brad?
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, Chris,
They
I would say
probably
that
do.
part of
I
it
don't know, but
is
they probably do.
yeah. But I mean, I will say the nice thing about the red carpets, though, that people is that I don't love going to the events, but what's really nice about the red carpets is you work on something with a group of people, and then you have almost a whole year where you don't see them because
Okay.
and so I always think what's nice about the red carpet is that it's a reunion. Oh my God, I haven't
Mhm.
seen these people for a year. You get to come back together
Have a
and it's
party, dress
have a
up.
party together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more that like it's really that kind of just reconnecting with people that you
Right.
spent such an intense period of time
Right.
with. So I do like that because you get to see these people that especially on task, we had such a great time with those
Yeah.
actors. It was so
Yeah.
lovely to see them again.
Yeah. And do you get recognized like here or not so
Not
much? Not really.
much.
Like
I mean,
just for
really
like
not much.
being
I mean,
Brad from
yeah.
1998.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah,
truly,
that's
that's
it.
it. Like, oh, hey, we
Yeah.
play basketball together.
Yeah.
I rarely ever get anyone to say, "Are you the guy that wrote Mare of Like almost
Totally.
never. And I would say I'm
If
also
only you were
happy with
Kate
that.
Winslet, then they'd know who you are.
That's true. That's
Then
true.
they'd
Kate
know.
would,
And
that's true.
we are not the same, but I'm thinking when you're talking about it, I'm equating it to, I'll be at the grocery store or I'm at the shore in New Jersey and I hear Mrs. Weinrich and I'm like,
Yes.
oh crud, am I yelling at my children? Am I
Mm.
dressed in like rags? Am I just trying to buy a gallon of milk? And I'm like, and I'll say to my husband, I have to go play school. Hang on. Hi,
Yes,
and
yes.
you're kind of like, I'm just trying to like,
I
and
bet
it's
you get
fun.
it way more than me.
And it
I
is
bet you get it way more.
I might.
Yes.
And it is fun. There is something fun to that, but I
Yeah.
could see if it's happening to you all the time.
No.
You're kind of like,
Yes.
I'm just trying to like do my thing and coach the
Yeah.
third grade basketball
No,
team, like,
no. Yeah,
and
it
turn
almost
it
never
off.
happens to me. But I have been around actors who, when I've been out with them, it does happen to them. And I can
Mhm.
see how it would be, whew, man, this is a lot. Like every day of
Yeah,
your
all the
life
time.
having to do yeah, I could see how it would get very irritating,
I mean, think of how
and
Taylor and Travis feel. I'm sure your daughter, I know she's a fan. I'm always like,
she's a
well,
fan.
imagine being Taylor and Travis. None of us
I
are there.
know.
So,
I
but truly,
know. I
like,
know.
like
That's
I
a
feel
whole
like
other level.
right, you could get trapped in your own house if you're at a certain level because you can't go anywhere,
You
and I
can't
think
go
it would get
anywhere.
kind of old. Um,
Mhm.
all right, so I was telling you again because your kids go to the elementary school
Mhm.
that you went to,
Mhm.
and when you came back, I had heard that the Inglesbys are back, and I was on the playground with your son's class, and I said to his teacher, "Is that an Inglesby?" And she's like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, he's new this year, right?" She's like, "Yeah," and I
Mhm.
said, "Yeah, I knew." She was like, "How do you know?" I said, "Oh, because he looks like an Inglesby," and she was like,
Mhm.
"I don't know what that means, but okay." And I was like, "Well, look at him. That's what it means to look like an Inglesby." She's like, "All right." I was like, tall, freckled, dark hair. And she
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
okay. And I was like, this
Hmm.
is the beauty of living in the same place for over
That's
40 years.
exactly right.
She was like, you do this all the time. And what is it like? I mean, you so closely, like having your kids go to the school you went to and being, a mile or two from where you grew up. How do you like that? Like we moved one school district over and oh my
Yep.
gosh, it's like a whole different world. Nobody knows us in Great Valley, but how is it to have them literally like in the place where you were?
I think it's really, I think it's really, I've really loved it because a part of what I really loved about this place as a kid, which I alluded to earlier, was just having a great group of friends,
Hmm.
um, uh, and being close to my cousins and having access to them as well. And so that was really the appeal of it. And I think we were nervous because our kids only knew California. They were
Hmm.
born in Newport Beach and they only ever lived in California.
Right. California
And
kids turned
they
Philly
were, they really
suburbs.
were, they
Yeah.
really were. And
Yeah.
so we were a little nervous, like how are they gonna adapt? How are they gonna like it? And I think what was obvious from I mean, just even a couple months of being back was just how much the family element mattered and how um, important it was and is to be surrounded by them. So
Hmm.
I think it was. I was nervous to do it because I just didn't know,
Yeah.
hey, these are the things that I loved about this place. Are they going to be the things that my kids love about the place? And you don't know until you're in it. But
Right.
I think, I would say the good news is we really haven't looked back. I mean, there are certain things about California that I do miss.
Like the
I was
beach
mainly the
right in your
Mexican food, the
backyard.
beach, the
Right.
80 degrees every day, being able to go
Yeah.
outside every day. But those things pale in comparison to being around family and cousins and having those experiences
Yeah.
and vacations. So I think it's been, it was a leap of faith, but I think it's paid dividends, and I think
Hmm.
it will continue to pay dividends. And we can always take a trip out to
Right. They can
California,
always
and
be
we
like,
always
when
get.
we grew up in California and then we came to
Hmm.
Pennsylvania, it's a good life
Hmm.
story, right? I
It's a
was
good life
born there.
story.
And people will be like, why'd you move back to the East Coast?
A
Why'd
lot
you
of them say that.
why'd you
A
come
lot of
back
them
to the
say that.
snow? Why'd you come
I
to the snow?
know. I get that a lot.
How would your kids describe you as a dad?
Oh God, that's a God. I
Right?
mean,
These are questions for the evening, man. I'm really putting you
these are
through it.
questions. These are. I mean, I hope I hope they would say that I'm available to them.
Hmm.
That's really important to me. I hope they would
Yeah.
say that I'm around a lot.
Hmm.
That that they can come to me with questions. Uh, I think they would probably say sometimes dad's in his own head. I think that's probably something that
That's
they
fair.
would say, that I'm kind of in outer space sometimes. But
Yeah.
I, you know, I hope they would say that. I guess my great hope as a father is that they would say I was someone that really tried to instill being a kind person and being a compassionate person, and that above all else is important. I think not that I don't care about grades or
Right.
that, but I think what I've really tried to do as a father is be someone um, who places empathy and kindness. And I hope that's the lesson that I hope when I pass, that's the thing they take is like, hey, you
Yeah.
have to be kind, you have to be
Yeah.
nice to people, you have to treat them a certain way. I
Yeah.
hope that's the one lesson they take from me.
Right. That's kind of what we're all hoping for, aren't
I
we?
hope so.
I
I hope
think
so.
I think I had to not to call your middle son out because I
Yeah.
adore him. He is a wonderful, wonderful child. And I think I had to send you and your wife one email when I taught him,
Probably.
and you came right back like, "We will discuss this at home. This
Yes.
is unacceptable." I was like, "Yes, this is the kind of
Yes.
parent I love." And I mean,
Yes.
truly, I think I said it's completely out of character. I'm actually surprised I
Yes.
have to send it because, but kids are kids. Like they all make mistakes.
Yes.
It
I
doesn't
know.
mean
I
anything.
know.
But I know he was like I'm really sorry, Mrs. Weinrich. It'll never happen again. I was like, see, you're not
Yep.
like, not my kid. You were like, great, we'll
Nope.
have a conversation this evening. I was
Yes,
like,
that's
sounds great.
exactly right.
Sounds
That's
great.
exactly right. That's the way we
Um,
want them to be raised and
yeah,
treated,
like,
you know.
aren't we all like, are we raising jerks? Or are they like, it's all this hard work that we're doing day after day after day. Like, in the end, if you
I
could only
know.
see like 15 years ahead, you'd be like, okay, they're good people, they're nice people. It all
Yes,
paid off
yes,
in the
that's
end.
exactly right.
You have
That's
those
exactly
moments where
right.
you're like, I'm not sure.
I know.
I don't
I
know.
know.
Yet
I
to be
know. It's so
determined.
true.
One thing that surprised you about being a father.
One thing that surprised me about being a father, I think what I've learned over time is, it's funny as a kid, and I love my dad, but as a kid, you think like, oh God, these are the qualities of my dad that would drive me crazy, or these are the things about my father
Yep.
that when it's my turn, I am
I'll
hell
never
bent
do
on,
this.
yep.
Then
And
you
I
hear it come out
find,
of your mouth and you're like,
yes,
oh, darn.
yes, or
Yeah.
I think for me, it's actually I have my own set of those things that
Right.
drive my kids crazy that I
Hmm.
swore like, well, I'm gonna fix these things, then I have everything together, and it's like, oh, I have these other quirks
My little
and
isms.
yeah, that are like, and they would, if I was my child, I would find them to be so annoying.
Yeah, they'll be
And
talking about
I
you in 30 years. And like,
totally,
remember when
totally
dad
right.
used to? And you're like, oh.
Totally right. And I think that as a parent, as a kid, you think I'm going to do it right or better. And you go, I'm just doing it a lot different. And it's
Yeah,
not better or worse. It's just
it's
different.
just
And my
your
kids are
way.
going to have the same stories I have. And
Hmm.
so I think and it's been funny to just pick up on what they are, know what they are. And also, I also think that what's hard as a parent is I know my flaws, and I see that my kids have like there are these things that make me anxious, and I know
Yep.
that my kids have that same anxiousness, and I
Yep.
wish that I could change myself so that I didn't pass that
I
along. But
agree
there are certain
completely.
things, yeah. And so that to me, I find hard at times where I see my son or my daughter being like, I was a very sensitive kid, I think, and I see my kids having that, and you go, in the moment, it's hard. I think sensitivity in the long run is quite a
Hmm.
good quality, but as
Hmm.
a kid, as a
It's hard.
teen, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's
and it's
very,
hard to
very
explain to
hard.
them like in 10 years this isn't
Not
really
gonna
going to
matter.
matter because in the moment
Yes.
it matters to
It
them. And
matters. Yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
you have
hard.
to appreciate that. You have to appreciate that it does matter and not say, "Oh, just that's not going to matter," because then that's
Yeah, it's
discounting
not a
them in
big
some way.
deal. And they're like, it is a
Yes.
big deal. And you're like, oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
know. So
And
that I think has been a shock.
it is kind of funny when like your parents' voices come out. Like I'll say something and I'm like, oh, in the words of Gigi, my kids are like, oh,
Yeah.
Gigi said that. I'm like, all the time. Or like I'll say something and my son will be like, Gigi said that today. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm her now. So
I
there you
know.
go. Or
I know.
like
I
my
know.
husband is very calm, cool, collected, and I'm a little more, up and down. And one of my kids will have like some big emotional reaction or like the door slams or whatever. And he looks at me and he's like, where'd that come from? And I'm like,
Yeah.
that would be me that came from. And he's like, oh, I'm like, oh, I remember that feeling. And he's like, oh,
Mhm.
really? You must have been a gem. I'm like, I was. I was like, look at me now. But yeah, I mean, and you're like, I said, I don't know why he's upset about it, but meaning my kids, my son or my daughter. And I'm like,
Yes.
but I can feel the feeling that they are
Yes.
feeling right now and why they're so
Yes.
angry. And he's like,
Yeah.
so at what age did you like grow out of this? And I was like, well, you met me when I was, however, I wasn't doing it then, right? So, in 25 years or so, we should be good.
Oh, gee, it's
Um,
so true.
so
So
true.
true.
All right, two more big questions for you.
Yeah.
Oh, how has your parenting life influenced like the stories that you write? And I know that you have kids
Yep.
in both of the stories, and
Mhm.
the is it Sam or
Mhm. Mhm.
Sam who is in task, and then the other little
Mhm.
boy who he picks up and carries to the bed, and you're like, oh,
Yes.
and then he goes and
Yes.
does all these crazy things, and then in
Yep.
Mare, the grandson who is
Mhm.
they're trying to get custody of, and
Mhm.
you have these like tender moments. And are you thinking of your own children when you're writing this? Are
Mhm.
you thinking of yourself as a father? Like, did you have as many
Mhm.
child characters in your stories before you were a dad, or just all of that?
I don't think I did. I think a lot of my life as a writer has been writing about what's happening to me. And
Hmm.
again, I always say, like, in Mare and Task, in Mare, I didn't grow up with a detective in
Right.
my family, but I know those conversations. Like, my grandmother moved in with us when I was a
Okay.
kid. She couldn't live on her own, so she moved into our
Was she
house.
as fun as Mare's mom?
She's
Was
funny.
she like plucky?
She's plucky in her own way. Maybe not quite like Jean Smart,
Okay.
but she's plucky in her own way. But she
Okay.
was very, very plucky. And So I think it's like, and I think it wasn't until I had children that children became such a big part of my stories, and,
Hmm.
and I could really draw a line to having Lily, to putting the kids, and it's pretty obvious and clear that once I had a child of my own, that I started to write about them. And also, I love writing about kids because I think there's a sort of, you know, a vitality, a humor,
Hmm. A little
like a
levity.
life force. Yeah, a
Yeah.
levity that it adds. And also, there's something universal about having children and, either being a mother or a father, a sister or
Hmm.
brother. Yeah, everyone can tap into that. And so I really do like writing kids, and I'm very cognizant of trying to write kids and giving and trying to give them a voice. Like
Hmm.
in Task, especially, it was very important that the kid characters were able to express themselves, and um, especially Tom's daughter, being able to talk about what it's like to be adopted and kind
Hmm.
of her feelings of always having to feel grateful. And so so I love writing kids because I do think there's something fun and funny and unpredictable
Yeah.
and alive about them. But also, I do think I'm able to write about them in a more interesting way because I have been a parent. I've spent time
You
with
can
them, and
pull
I've
some of
learned.
those funny
I
little
can pull it.
stories.
I can pull it, and so many of those things come from my own life. And so many of those stories are real in some way, whether they're exactly as written or they're inspired by something that's happened to me. They're very much coming from a place that I've either experienced or heard about or listened to, or I know someone. So yeah, I think that's very much a part of being a dad is that I feel like I love to incorporate kids in the stories now.
Right. It becomes like who you are, I think. Like if somebody
Yeah.
were to say like, who are you? I'd be like, well, I'm a mom. And then like, what else? You know what I mean? You'd say, I'm a
Yeah, of
dad. And
course.
then
hmm
it's kind of what it is.
hmm
Do your kids like writing and movies and stuff or no?
I think they like movies,
I know
although their
one who's really
attentions.
good at math.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right,
I
good.
know
Well, then he's
one.
got a talent. He's got a talent. But I think I think I think they like movies. I don't know that I. And again, I'd have to. I don't remember myself as a kid back then,
Right.
but I do remember having a real passion. I don't know that I've seen them have a real passion. And also, gotta be honest, Chris, I don't know that. I don't know that I'd be pushing them into this
Okay.
business. I
Yeah.
I I think it's a very, I think it takes a certain patience and it's a quite a lonely life in a lot of ways and you have to be comfortable being alone. And
Mm,
I think that's an important quality.
that's interesting.
Yeah, you have to be very comfortable being alone, which I
Meaning
don't know
because
is a good thing.
you're like writing most of the time by yourself in your office and like you're kind of in your own head.
Yeah.
That is that kind
You're
of
in
what you
your own
mean?
head.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Whereas, some people like, I have a younger brother, Tommy. He's very outgoing and personable. And I think he likes to be out and chatting with customers and clients and going to
Okay.
the golf course. And, I'm more, I don't think I'm introverted. I think I don't think I'm particularly introverted, but I'm very comfortable at home in my
Okay.
office writing, where certain people need that interaction, that
Hmm.
social
That's
interaction
an
every
interesting
day.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lonely life. And I think if, you have to be comfortable with that. And there are times where, when you're shooting a show, you're on set every day with 200 plus people.
Right.
It's not
And you're
lonely at
not
all.
alone.
It's,
You're
yeah,
like, let me
it's
go
not
back
alone
to
at all. Um,
just when you get lonely, then you're like, whoa, I need a
Here it comes.
not
Yeah,
lonely. Well, that's
it's
okay.
like polar opposites,
Aren't
you
all
know.
like third and sixth grade boys going to be professional athletes anyway?
Yeah, oh
Like they're
yeah,
all wearing
exactly right.
baseball life and we're all dressed like ice cream cones right now. So,
Totally,
you know,
totally
they'll
right.
they'll be
Totally
on a
right.
field somewhere.
I know. I thought I was too. I thought when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to be Magic Johnson. And then it became apparent very quickly. Like, well, maybe I got to
Maybe
look
not that.
elsewhere
Maybe
for,
not. Yeah,
yeah,
maybe
that's not
not
going to
right
happen.
there.
Yep. But it is
Um,
lonely. I don't know. Yeah, I'd be interested. I mean, if they loved it and they were really passionate about it, then I would, help them in any way, of
right,
course.
right.
But I think, I would, yeah, I'd be interested to see, it'd be interesting to see which ones respond to it and want to take it to the next level
Yeah.
and which ones don't. I'll be interested to see.
I wonder when they'll ask to watch your shows, like at what age, and will they be like,
hmm
"This is oh, Dad, this is so dumb," or like, or like, you're like, "Thanks,
I know.
thank
I
you."
showed them. I was actually able to show them a Lost Bus because it wasn't. There was nothing in that movie I felt that was too. Yeah, the language wasn't bad. There
Okay.
was no killing. It was tense,
Yeah, I
but
want to watch that
uh,
movie. It sounds great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I showed them, and they actually really liked that.
Oh,
And I was like,
good. Look
great.
at
That
you.
that was the movie that
You
I
didn't
that I've
embarrass
written.
them,
I didn't
right?
embarrass
So
them, but they
embarrassing,
got
Dad.
caught up in it. I think they were scared and thrilled, and so that was nice to see that. The others, I don't think the shows they would respond to because the themes are probably a
You're gonna
little
only
bit
need a little time, couple
a
year,
little
couple
time
couple
with
decades
those.
or so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think Lost Bus had a certain propulsive quality. The kids on a bus trying to drive through the fire. I think they
Right.
could get their
And
heads
that they
around
can
that due
relate.
to that.
They can
Yep.
relate. That'll be fun though for you, I guess, maybe because by the time they are old enough to watch it, it'll be, maybe
Yep.
10 or 15 years old, and you'll be like,
I know.
let's open that one back up
Yeah,
and talk
exactly
about it.
right.
Yeah, let's
Exactly
see.
right. Oh God, I
Um,
know.
all right, last big question. How do you define success now, compared to how you defined it when you were young, starting out? And I think you sort of
Yeah.
answered that in terms of like you
Yep.
get to do what you love, you get to be home. Well,
Yes.
I'll stop
Yeah.
talking for you. Sorry,
No,
go
but I
ahead.
think you said it. I mean, I think for me, it's a really good question. I think for me, success is being there for my kids and my wife and my parents and my brothers and sisters. And I think for years and years, Kristen, it was that thing that I was referring to earlier, which was like I have to prove to myself that I can do it.
Hmm.
And that was a very, I guess I can't really underestimate how big that was in my life. Like I said, I felt like I could live being a failure as a writer, but I couldn't
Yeah.
live never, taking my shot. And so I
And
think after, yeah,
it's
go ahead.
kind of interesting because I'm sorry, I interrupted you
Yeah.
because you said that you kind of took all those movie classes and that one teacher just said to you sort of on a whim, like, "Hey, is this something?" And was it
Yeah.
something is this something you want to pursue? And did she plant the seed, or do you think you always kind of had the seed? She just need to like give you the kick in the pants.
Yeah, I think I had the seed, but I think it was like the person that was like, "Hey, you have some talent actually,"
Yeah.
and
You're like,
it
"Oh,
was
I do? Thanks."
yeah,
Yeah.
and truly I probably didn't, I mean again, the idea that I mean, I didn't know anybody.
Right.
I was like, my dad was in insurance, my mom stayed home, and like, we didn't know anybody in the
Hmm.
business. So the idea that I could go to Hollywood and write movies was so impossible for me to
Right.
even it was like that's not even I don't even and then for her to be like, well, actually I think you have a little bit of talent, and then to
Like,
apply to graduate school and to get in and have other people go, hey, you do have talent. Then I was like,
yeah.
okay, well, let me see if I can. And so for me, success now is it's changed a lot. I think that was the big hurdle in my life was to
Right.
be like, oh, I have the ability to become a working writer in
Yeah.
Hollywood. And then after that, I don't want to say everything is gravy. I take every project very seriously. I want it to be as good as I can make it. I
Yeah.
care about how it's done and all the details that go into it. So I take it very seriously, but um I don't think I'm vulnerable to opinions and as vulnerable as I was. I think
Okay.
now I'm really not. Like, it's nice when people say they like your show, but if someone says to me, "Hey, I've never seen Mare of Easttown," I don't.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
doesn't but yeah, I go,
All
"Oh, that's
right.
fine. I know that's not for you." And I have shows that people love that aren't for me. Like it doesn't bother me. Or even if people say, "Hey, I didn't really like the show," it doesn't bother me
Right.
because I think my great goal was to just to make it. And I
Right.
feel like I've done everything after that's kind of been like it's gravy. I did it.
Because
I've
you
been
did
able to
it.
live with myself.
I mean,
And
imagine
because I
if
said,
you didn't like that's a huge success in itself that you took the chance. Like
right,
imagine if you had never taken the chance. It's a big lesson
that's
to
right.
everybody
It
listening,
is.
do
No,
it.
it's so true. I really think it is. And that's what I'm getting at is like I think the great win, the thing that was always that would have always haunted me was never taking a chance.
Right,
After
you tried.
that, everything's nice and I have lots of great experiences and I like when people see the shows and they like them and
Right.
they connect with them. But it doesn't, I don't know. I don't it doesn't get me out of bed. Oh, I hope people love the shows.
Right.
It's like I did the thing that scared me. That was the
Right.
most important thing to me. And I always work hard, I always give it, but
You don't need
truly that was
approval.
I don't need the approval anymore. I didn't, I think that's what's, I set out to do what I wanted to do, and that was the most important thing. And so success to me is much different, I think when I was a young writer, it was like I have to make it. I have to get an agent. I got,
Right.
I had such a series of goals and I was really driven at that time to hit those goals. I don't think that I have that list anymore,
Yeah.
or at least that list is a lot different. It's just not as important. I think when I was younger, I was very driven in that way. Now I'm not as much. I mean,
Which
it's just a
which probably
different
led you to
driving
not
force.
have to worry about it as much. You
Yeah,
worked so hard, hit all your goals, and now you're like, okay, now I can kind of enjoy it and just kind of sit
yeah.
back and,
Yeah, I mean, it's
do it.
just different now. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different. It's like I have different goals, but I also have different priorities too. I have
Right.
kids and these things. So it's
Dog.
changed a lot, I would say. Yeah, a
Yeah.
dog
F
now.
dog.
It's just changed a lot. And I think it's because, like I said, I think it's because I took a chance and I could say to myself, "Hey, you did it." And that was the most important thing
Yeah.
to me was trying.
Wise words. Look at
No,
you
thank you.
wrapping
Thank
it
you.
up. All right, here we go with our quick, and I say this every time. I call them rapid fire and then I talk. I'm going to shut up and let you answer. If you have more to say, you can. If not, we'll just keep moving. Okay,
Yep.
early morning or late nights? You kind of answered it.
Early morning, early morning.
Favorite thing that your kids are into right now that you also enjoy?
Um, I like to play basement basketball with them. We have like a little
Oh,
Nerf hoop. So they're very, very into that. They put like lines on the court in the basement, Kristen. So we go down and do that all
and
the
do they
time.
bring Grandpa over and Uncle Martin
You
and
know,
do that?
he plays he comes over once in a while and he'll show him up in the basement.
Yeah, tell him who's boss. Are you strict or like a softie as a dad?
Softy, softy.
Softie. Okay.
Absolute softy.
Is
Yeah.
your wife the strict
Now,
one?
yes, I say, but I'm strict when it comes to the things you mentioned earlier, when it's like, you
Being good
know,
people.
yes, being good people.
Yeah.
If it's anything with that, then I'm the one that's like, nope, no, we're not doing that. Like you
Yeah.
treat people a certain way. So when it comes to stuff like that, I come in. But when it's like the everyday, like,
Can we go to handles? Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Sure.
yes,
Ask Dad.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
You're the softie. All
yes,
right. Well,
yes,
we'll keep that in mind.
yes.
Coffee, water, or something else while you're sitting there thinking. And what do you
Coffee,
do?
always coffee, lots of coffee, Chris. And
Okay.
that is a guilty. I have a lot of coffee every
Maybe
day.
that's where some of those great ideas come from.
Mm-hmm,
It's all playing
mm-hmm.
around in your brain. When do your best ideas come to you? It kind of sounds like all the time.
In the morning.
Okay.
In the morning. Yeah, I get up early in the morning and I can be really, really good from about 6 a.m. till about 9 a.m. That's when I
Okay.
can be like really,
Really
really
cooking.
good. And then the rest of the day is kind of just putting those ideas into motion or testing them out or writing the scenes. And then like I would also say like sometimes right before bed I can get a really good idea or two that
Mm,
I'll put down in my notebook that will
okay.
at least that will get me into the morning. Oh, I have that idea. I'm gonna spring into that in the morning. So early morning or sometimes like right before bed, I'll jot down an idea or two
Okay.
that then can get me going in the morning.
Okay. That's good. Something to like
Yep.
bounce right into the day with.
Yes.
That's good.
Yep.
That's good.
Mhm.
Best or favorite pizza topping?
Well, sadly, I've got celiac disease. I don't get to eat a ton of pizza
Oh,
anymore. But when I was
oh,
a kid, I love mushroom pizza, and even now I'll get the
mushrooms.
gluten free
Okay.
pizza. Yeah, I do. I love mushrooms. I'll put mushrooms in almost anything.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was going to bake something for you to thank you. So I will take that off the list. Never mind. I'll bake it for your kids. They don't have
The kids
celiac,
will love
right?
it. Yeah, the
Be
kids
like,
will
here's a
love
brownie. Tell your dad I said thanks. Okay, but mushrooms, that's an interesting
Yeah.
choice.
I
Okay,
love mushrooms.
have you found a good like gluten-free? Not really.
Not too many, really. I like it breaks my heart because I loved pizza as a kid. I mean, you were probably the same way. We would
Yeah,
order
yeah,
from
yeah.
Berwin Pizza every Friday
Yes,
night, and I
after
know.
mass.
Yep, that's it.
Hello.
Yep, and exactly right. And so it kills me, but it's just better for me to stay. I have to stay away from it now.
Have you gone to, there's that bakery next to Berwyn Pizza that's gluten-free.
Oh no, I
They
didn't know
just
that.
opened like in the fall,
Oh,
so they're good.
oh,
I
I didn't
mean,
even know that.
they were like giving out free samples one time, and I was like, for not having flour in it, this is good.
It's
I'm
pretty
going home
good.
and
Yeah.
baking with flour, but yes, it's worth a shot for you.
Okay.
Last show that you binged personally.
Last show that I binged, what did I binge recently that we watched? Sirens. I think I binged
Oh,
Sirens was the one that I know the writer Molly, she's a friend. She did a show called Made, which was really good.
okay.
And Sirens was Julianne Moore. And I like
Oh,
that.
I like her.
Yeah, yeah, she's really good. She's
Yeah.
always really good. So I watched that. I thought that was really good.
Okay, we'll
Mhm.
write it on our list to watch
Yep.
next. What's your favorite Philly spot to go to? Either to like clear your head or day out with the family. Where do you like to go? In the area or in the city?
God, in the city, in the city, I go to Rittenhouse a lot because I spend a lot of time there because a lot of the actors they end up staying there. So when
Okay,
we
that makes
go,
sense.
so when we're like reading scripts together, if I told you how many times I've eaten at Park, your head would spin. That was like our spot. We'd always go there and eat. So I
Everybody
love
else is
that.
like waiting for a reservation. You're like,
Yeah, I
ah,
know.
Mark.
No, I know. I know. So we always go there. Around here, I love going out in Wayne with the kids. We spend a
Mm,
lot of time in Wayne at the bookstore, and we go to
yes.
Christopher's, and we go to the baseball card
I was
shop
going to
because they
say, and
love
Wheelhouse, because we
Wheelhouse.
were just
Yep,
there this weekend. My son was like,
yep.
I could live here, mommy. I'm like, I know, but my entire house is filled with baseball cards. I don't know
I
why we
know.
need. There's a new one in
I know.
Malvern you should take the kids to. There's a new
Oh, what's
baseball
it
card store,
called?
King Street Cards, and it's
Okay, I'm gonna
right
write it down right
right on
now.
King Street.
There we go. I'm
Yeah, it's
writing
like
it down
right
because
where
my
like
kids.
Warren and King Street
Yep,
cross.
yep.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay, okay, great.
Um, Favorite song or musician?
Ooh, God, that's a tough one. Favorite song or musician? I would say I have so many because I listen to music I mean, it's so much when
all the
I'm
time.
writing. It's like
Are you one
constantly
of those
on.
people like you do like if I listen to music when I'm working and I really get in the groove, I don't hear the music, but I'm singing along to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
I'm
if
kind of
like
the same
I
way.
have to
Yes,
have
yes.
it, but I can't
Yep,
do silence, but I'm not really hearing it, but I am
yep,
hearing it.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. No, I mean, I just like it's just a constant in my life. I mean, favorite song is I would say the artist that I've been most, that have stayed with me most over the years be Springsteen probably, which is obvious being from here. I mean, that's no surprise to anybody. Pearl Jam,
Yes. Back when like remember when it was cool to say you liked it, now kids are like,
yeah,
who? I'm like,
I
Pearl
know,
Jam, stop.
I know, I
How do you
know,
not
I know,
know?
I know. I mean, but so I mean, The National is a band that I really like now. I saw I'd say a great artist now. Waxahachie is an artist I
Oh,
love now.
okay.
She's a fantastic singer. Sam Fender I love as a new singer. He's fantastic. So I mean, I'm always listening to
Everything.
music. Music is like my thing. I'm always looking for the new singer, the new
Yeah,
band, going to the
yeah.
concerts. It's a meaningful part of my writing process, actually.
Right.
So I love music. It'll always be a huge part of my life.
Okay, good. So no one favorite, just
No,
lots of
lots
people
of
you like. That's
favorites.
good.
Just lots of awesome music.
Lots. There, you're right. Eagles, Phillies, or both?
I mean, both. I would say I'm probably, you know, probably slightly more interested in the Phillies because that's what my father he's a big Phillies fan. I mean, he
Okay.
watches almost every game, Kristen, but
Okay.
I love them both. I'll watch the Eagles, but I'll also get really into the
Into the
Phillies. So
baseball.
yeah,
Okay. All
I love
right.
them both.
They're big at my house too. I'm like, I was
Yes.
never like a sports person, but I feel like now I can kind of talk the talk a little bit, or I'll come down to breakfast and my son's like, Mommy, World Series 19, whatever it was, 92, 93. I'm like, dude, like I got like Bryce Harper. Like and he's like, I'm like, everyone else in the family knows the answer. I am not the girl to go to. And if you weren't a writer, what would you be? An insurance agent.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I was an insurance
Something
agent.
with health insurance.
You know what? I actually think if I had to do it again and I couldn't, I like the idea of being a doctor. I think, when
Oh,
I think
okay.
about my life, I love the idea of being able to, impact people's life in some way. And I think about that and I think, that would have been interesting to me if I had to do it again
Okay.
and I'm very happy being a writer. I'm very comfortable being a writer. But if I had to do it again, I like the idea of being a doctor.
Okay, I like that.
Mhm.
They're like
Mhm.
not a computer teacher at
Not a
the
computer
Catholic
teacher. I
school.
don't. I think I
Nope.
realized quickly that was not
One
my.
year was enough.
Was 1 year.
Good
Yes.
enough.
Yes.
Good enough.
Yes.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your perspective on creativity, career paths, and parenting. I really appreciate your honesty and thoughtfulness. Listeners, please be sure to catch Brad's shows, Mare of Easttown and Task on HBO. And your movies, are they on HBO or like YouTube, Apple TV, kind of anywhere? Or
Yeah.
where are we getting them?
I think Lost Bus is on Apple.
Okay.
Echo Valley is a movie I did that's on Apple. The Way Back might be on Max, I think. But I would say Amazon. You could probably just,
Just
I
search
think
for
I
it
love.
with your remote and you'll find it.
That's
Okay.
exactly right.
He's
Exactly
an
right,
easy guy to
Chris.
track down. And I will link the shows and stuff in the show notes for people who are
Great.
interested if they can't find you on their own. And thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Mom's Work. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to follow, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. It really does help the show to reach other people. And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Mom's Work Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. And thanks again, Brad.
Anytime, Kristen. Glad to be here.
Great. Thank